Babylon, man, I've been so torn thinking about this world lately. Babylon, truth is so deluded and it drives me crazy. Babylon, this lost world is so hopeless. Babylon, Jesus Christ, that's where hope is. Babylon, no matter what they say, it's still so lost.
And the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face towards the mountain of Israel, and prophesy against them. And say, Ye mountains of Israel, hear the word of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord God to the mountains and to the hills, to the rivers and to the valleys. Behold, I, even I, will bring a sword upon you, and I will destroy your high places, and your altars shall be desolate, and your images shall be broken. And I will cast your slain men before your idols, and I will lay the dead carcasses of the children of Israel before their idols. And I will scatter your bones around about your altars, and all your dwelling places in the cities shall be laid waste, and the high places shall be desolate, that your altars may be laid waste and made desolate, and your idols may be broken and cease, and your images may be cut down, and your works may be abolished. And the slain shall fall in the midst of you, and ye shall know that I am the Lord. Yet will I leave a remnant, that ye may have some that shall escape the sword among the nations, when ye shall be scattered through the countries. And they that escape of you shall remember me among the nations, whither they shall be carried captives, because I am broken with their whorish heart, which had departed from me, and with their eyes, which go a-whoring after idols. And they shall loathe themselves for the evils which they have committed in all their abominations. And they shall know that I am the Lord, and that I have not said in vain that I would do this evil unto them. That is Ezekiel chapter 6, verses 1 through 10. And this is Resisting Balaam, a podcast where we seek to encourage the saints to stand firm with him on his word against all of the accusations made by the world, the flesh, and the devil, as we engage the culture of death that demands the sacrifice of our children. I am Callie, and this is a Wrath and Grace podcast, so go check out the guys at wrathandgrace.com. Go check out their music, the sermons they have posted, books, t-shirts, all kinds of good stuff. Also, if you would please share and like this content, get it out there, that would be very much appreciated. And if you would like to help support the continuation of creating and distributing content like this, visit our Patreon at patreon.com/resisting Balaam. Before we get started today, I would like to thank the Joyful Patriarchy Wife and the Reformed Man for their continued support. So before we get started, let's check out their advertisements and go check out those guys. They put out a lot of good stuff.
We are Titus 2 women, seeking to glorify God through the teaching of younger women, biblically, to love their husbands, children, and be keepers of the home.
Not grudgingly or as a legalistic chore, but rather to joyfully sacrifice in loving their husband and children as unto the Lord.
Giving glory to God and finding joy in caring for our families in only the way wives and mothers can.
As God has blessed us with female traits that make our work in the home essential to a godly home.
It's no secret that true masculinity is being lost. We are attempting to recapture the essence of true godly manhood, biblically balanced just as the Lord intends it to be. We do this by highlighting the interest of the everyday man and pointing them to real wisdom only found in the gospel. One of our top priorities is to shine light on and support ministries on the front lines battling the evil deeds of the flesh and Satan. A portion of all online sales go to ministries such as Resisting Balaam and Bridge Ministries Laredo to further the kingdom and bring glory to his name. So who are we? We are husbands. We are fathers. We are sons. We are friends. And we are brothers. We are reformed man.
Okay, thank you to the reformed man and joyful patriarchy wife. A couple of weeks ago, a woman was arrested for doing a self-managed abortion. And I wanted to talk about that event a little bit, some of the implications, and go through an article that Joe Carter wrote in response. Now, this happened in Texas, in Starr County, and there was a 26-year-old lady that did a self-induced abortion, allegedly. Now, there's not a lot of public information about everything about this event and how it came to light. So I'm going to try not to speculate too much and only use the information that has been released. But looking at that type of information, there are a few things that I would like to point out and discuss. So this woman allegedly kills her own preborn child by using abortion pills. They do not say where she got the pills from. They do not say if she used like 8-axis and used the same 2-pill regimen that are used in the healthcare facilities, or if she used one of the underground like Facebook or any social media group where they are trafficking in miso, mostly coming from Mexico, where they're only using the second half of the regimen but doing multiple pills, where they're killing children 5 months, 6 months, and this type of thing. So we don't know what type of pill regimen this lady used. But she does go to the hospital. And one of the hospital staff alerts law enforcement that this woman, this young lady, did a self-managed abortion by pill. Now, there's a lot of arguments from various nonprofit organizations and things like that are talking about the ethics behind this healthcare worker that released this information to the law enforcement, and the confusion that some of these nurses and healthcare practitioners have about what the law permits and doesn't permit. And that really isn't the point of this video. So I don't know if it was a lady or not. One of the healthcare providers informs law enforcement that this young lady killed her own preborn child using pills, and there was a grand jury that met, which means a prosecutor was involved, and they handed down an indictment. And then, I guess it was earlier in February, like 2 weeks ago, she was arrested. And she spent a couple of days in jail until a pro-abortion, self-managed abortion nonprofit bailed her out. Now, during this time, the DA of Starr County dropped all of the charges. The sheriff, when talking about the arrest, quotes Chapter 19 of the Homicide Code, citing why she was arrested. Because she unjustly killed a human. But he quotes the definition from Chapter 19.1. And the DA, when they dropped all of the charges, quotes 19.6, saying that it is not to be considered criminal homicide if the actor, the one doing the killing, is the mother of the preborn child that is killed. So, in this event, and I think it's important that this is happening right now, and what it's doing for the conversation about abortion laws, specifically in Texas, but across our nation. Now, a lot of the pro-life organizations are saying that this, and as well as some of the pro-choice organizations and media are saying that this is a response to the heartbeat bill and SB4, which is dealing with abortion pills, which is just like not true, right? The heartbeat bill does not give the state any type of recourse when dealing with somebody that kills a preborn child. And the pro-life organizations have applauded the state Supreme Court decision, both the pro-choice and the pro-life, that they're excited that they've ruled in favor of the state relinquishing its sword, that they have no interest whatsoever in punishment of anyone that kills a child that has a detectable heartbeat. That punishment and justice is in the hands of society, that it is a civil punishment. So that right there just shows that the state has no ability to do anything in cases like this. But when they deal with SB4 and the pill abortion, they're saying that the state does have the sword and can apply prosecution. They can charge people that kill children, preborn children, that they can bring charges, have a trial, and if found guilty, apply punishment. And so in this case, that's what they did. Now, one of the really interesting parts about this case is that a prosecutor did take this to a grand jury. And a grand jury decided to indict her. So we are seeing that people recognize that this is criminal homicide, that you are unjustly killing a human being. That a prosecutor was like, well, yeah, this is a human that was killed. And a grand jury agreed. Unfortunately, they did not look at the law, because in Texas, it is not considered criminal homicide, which is what they charged her with, if the one doing the action is the mother of the preborn child that is killed. So in this case, the DA, it's not that the DA did the morally right thing, but the DA did what was required of, I don't know if it was a lady or a man, what was required of them by the law. Because the law is written in the way that it is, it excludes all mothers that kill their own preborn children. They cannot be charged with any type of criminal homicide. Straight away, blanket statement, they are the only demographic targeted by the pro-life establishment and legislators to be the only demographic that is removed from any type of prosecution for criminal homicide. So this DA did the legally correct thing. Dropped all of the charges, because there is no charge that can be made. Now, this ties in a little bit with one of the accusations against criminalization bills, that we're going to go and try to round up all of the women that have ever had an abortion and give them the death penalty. It is unconstitutional to apply laws ex post facto. You cannot charge somebody for a crime that was legal when they committed the crime. It gives them a viable affirmative defense, which would be what's going on in this case. The affirmative defense for this lady that killed her own preborn child is, it's legal for me to kill my own preborn child by any means that I want to, anytime that I want to, up until the point of birth. Explicit in the criminal homicide code in Texas. That's what it says. So the DA made the correct decision. It's immoral, but it was the correct legal decision. But there's a lot of good things about this. It's bringing the conversation to the public to talk about what we're going to do. I just find it very interesting that a prosecutor was willing to take this case to a grand jury, knowing that explicit in the criminal homicide codes that this woman is exempt from all prosecution, and that a grand jury did indict her for a crime that is legal for her to do. One thing I hope this shows is the impotence of the state to do anything whatsoever as we move to this new paradigm of child sacrifice. Organizations like TAL and Texas Right to Life, and even the governor at their March for Life parade and celebration were cheering on and quoting statistics that 60% of all the abortions, that babies were saved. 60% of all the babies were saved ever since the heartbeat bill has gone into effect. Part of the problem is they're not acknowledging that that's not fully true. We need to admit, yes, 60% of these murders are no longer happening in the formal healthcare system. That these two healthcare laws are preventing 60% of these unjust killings from happening in healthcare facilities in Texas. That part is true. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. If these healthcare facilities that kill children are abiding by the law, then 60% of the number of children killed in these healthcare facilities has gone down by 60%. But those babies are still being killed. Roughly 1,200 plus children are being killed through child sacrifice tourism, going to Oklahoma, Colorado, New Mexico, California, Louisiana. And we need to be honest that it doesn't matter what law we have in Texas, that's going to be a reality. That should not be the basis of us arguing against some of these healthcare laws that uphold children being murdered. Because even if we have a bill that criminalizes abortion in Texas, it's a safe bet to say that the same number of children will be killed out of state through child sacrifice tourism. But there's also numbering. We don't have exact numbers for it, but somewhere around 1,500 plus or minus prescriptions for the abortion pill regimen through aid access alone is happening in Texas. Now, we can't prove that the women that got these prescriptions went through and got the pills in the mail and took them. We don't know that they've done that. But still, the number of people through aid access alone is about 1,500 a month in Texas receiving a prescription for these deadly poisons. That also does not include the number of people going to Mexico to buy miso, the number of people using these underground forums that are stockpiling and distributing these pills. It does not include a large number of the self-managed abortion that is happening in Texas. This number is growing exponentially, and it has been for a couple of years, but drastically ever since the COVIDs, and even greater since the passing of the heartbeat bill as a healthcare law in Texas governing and regulating the murder of children in healthcare facilities. I gave a lecture on this in Oklahoma in February, so go check that out. And what I want to do is talk about the impotence of the state to do anything in light of the rising number of women that are killing their preborn children outside of the formal healthcare setting, inside healthcare facilities like Planned Parenthood, other healthcare facilities like Alamo Women, Whole Women's Health, and some of the other small private healthcare facilities that kill preborn children. The number of children that are being killed outside and beyond the grasp of these healthcare laws is exponentially rising, and has been over the last several months specifically. With all of the attention that is happening, and people are finding it easier to find information on self-managed abortion, access to it, and a community of people that are embracing it and promoting it. What's interesting also about what's happening and the killings that are happening outside of the formal healthcare setting is the healthcare laws are restricting how far along in pregnancy you are able to kill your child. So like in Texas, with this heartbeat bill, that healthcare law says that you can still kill babies that don't have a detectable heartbeat, but you can't kill these babies in a healthcare facility if they have a detectable heartbeat. Even aid access with their pill regimen, they say they are going to continue to distribute prescriptions and pills up to 11 weeks pregnant. But you just type in numbers on the screen, and a lot of women are talking about just typing in 10 weeks, even though they are 20 weeks pregnant, 22 weeks pregnant, 18 weeks pregnant. A lot of the online forums where you can get just the miso are talking about how to kill your children to like 6 months using just the miso regimen. So not only are these pills more easily accessible, information about them is widely distributed, but women are killing their children much further along in their pregnancy. They are all also talking about how to disguise the killing as a miscarriage, because there's no testing that can be done to see if you intentionally took this type of, they call it medicine or poison, to kill your child. And that's what happened in this case. The only reason any of this came out is because the woman told the healthcare provider that she had taken these pills in a self-managed abortion. And then that healthcare worker leaked it to law enforcement. I'd like to look at how Joe Carter responded to this, right? He wrote this article for the Gospel Coalition. Should women be prosecuted for self-induced abortions or self-managed abortions? Right? And he spends probably at least half, if not more, about the details of this case and trying to deal with how pro-lifers in general look at pill abortion and praising the heartbeat bill and the fact that the state no longer has the sword but is giving it to citizens. He goes on to talk about immediatists and incrementalists. And he says that within this article that you're not going to change the mind, that this is not going to change the mind of the immediatist, which he's right. We believe, he says, that immediatists believe that abortion is a crime and a sin, and that women should be charged with, well, he says murder or criminal homicide for having an abortion. The incrementalists, he says, almost always believe that abortion is a sin and a crime, but that women should not be charged with criminal homicide for having an abortion. And so he wants to spend the rest of the article, which is not much, to deal with the questions around this idea of criminalization for these women that kill their own preborn children. And he says no argument is going to persuade immediatists that we shouldn't charge mothers who abort their children with murder. And that's true, because we're basing how we approach criminal homicide, regardless of who it is that's doing the killing. We want to do it equally according to God's law. We want criminal homicide to be treated like criminal homicide, that every instantiation of that crime should be judged by the merits of that individual case. That all forms of criminal homicide should have the same laws applied to each individual case of criminal homicide. And that every principal actor, that every co-conspirator, and every accomplice should have the same laws applied to them. And we do this in every other form of criminal homicide except for the killing of preborn children. He goes on to say that pro-lifers have always held to this two victims principle. And he says that women that kill their own preborn children should be considered victims of abortion and not criminals. And he goes on to quote Clark Forsyth. And he says abortion laws targeted those who performed abortion and not women. In fact, states expressly treated women as the second victim of abortion. State courts expressly called the women a second victim, and abortionists were the exclusive target of the law. So why is it that the women have been targeted as victims and removed from all types of prosecution? And it's been because they want to be able to make sure that they can at least charge the abortionist with the crime. They claim that it is not to evade the moral consequences of their action, but to ensure that the principal criminal, who is the abortionist, would be identified, prosecuted, and brought to justice. And he quotes this law professor from Villanova. If the woman were a criminal co-conspirator with the abortionist, in the common law tradition, the abortionist could not be convicted on the basis of the woman's uncorroborated testimony. And all too often, there is no other witnesses and no other evidence. Okay, and this is true. Throughout history, if they charged the woman as a co-conspirator, okay, so let's talk about this in general first. When you charge a co-conspirator to a crime, and that co-conspirator is the only evidence you have against the principal actor, you cannot take their testimony as the only uncorroborated evidence. You need the witness of two or three, right? You need 2 or 3 streams of evidence in order to convict for a crime. And there really wasn't other types of evidence because of a lag in technology, and we did not have the same type of medical technology and advances and things like this in the 1800s, early 1900s, mid and late 1900s. It's very recent that we have the capability of showing evidence and tracking evidence, providing evidence that would corroborate the woman's testimony to make this crime a crime for the abortionist. So one of the reasons that they've always said that she's a victim is less about her being a victim and more about their inability to use the woman in order to convict the abortionist. That's no longer necessary because of technology that we have right now. So I think it's really funny that they call her a victim, not because she's a victim, but because they can't use her evidence because it's uncorroborated. So that would be the first part, right? But is she a victim? The problem with looking at her as a victim is they use a couple of different things. And I'd like to see whether or not she is a victim. And the two things that they generally, and when I say they, I'm talking about pro-life organization heads and the ones that, and legislators and things like this that really push this. The two aspects of proving that women that kill their own preborn children are victims and should not be considered co-conspirators or accomplices or even principal actors in the murder of these children is, one, they are coerced. And I've done episodes about this before. We need to start out and admit that some women are legitimately, by legal definitions, coerced into killing their children. It does happen. These women are victims. Whether it's a part of sex trafficking or even incestual rape, where there is legitimate bodily harm or death being threatened to the woman, or she is literally forced to kill that child. She's held down, like in China, where they just go in, hold them down and rip the baby out of them. Or if they're forced to take these pills. In those cases, coercion is real. But here's the thing, coercion is already an affirmative defense. And what we are asking for is not a blanket, all women that participate in abortion are instantly guilty. What we're asking for is due process. That the laws of criminal homicide apply to them, and that each individual case is judged on the merits of that case. So if there is legitimate coercion, the DA has discretion. There's a grand jury that could possibly not indict. There is the real jury that hears the evidence and hears that defense and can acquit. Already embedded into the legal system is protection for these types of coercion. But see, here's the thing, right? When pro-life legislators and organization heads and the media talk about coercion, they say the boyfriend, the parents, society as a whole, their jobs are pressuring them to kill their children. I will fire you if you do not kill your child. I will kick you out of the house if you do not kill your child. I will disown you. I will leave you if you do not kill your child. Is that real pressure? Yes. Is it abhorrent behavior on the part of the one applying the pressure? Yes. Should fathers, husbands, boyfriends, parents apply that kind of pressure on a mother? No. They should not. And they should be held accountable for doing so. But does it rise to the level of coercion? And the answer is no. In any other circumstance, we would not be okay with, if you do not kill your 2-year-old child, I will kick you out of the house. I will leave you. I will disown you. We would say that is criminal homicide. It is only if that child has not been born yet that we throw up our hands in the air and pretend that she's a victim of coercion. Is it pressure? Yes. Is it really hard pressure? Can they really put their thumbs down and oppress this woman? Of course, it's wrong. It's evil. But it is not coercion. So that's one thing. The other problem that the pro-life organizations have when they try to call a woman a victim of abortion, they generally talk about the mens rea. And that is the intention and knowledge of their actions that make a crime a crime. They try to say that society has indoctrinated women to the point of not knowing that what they are doing meets the standard of what is considered a crime. That society has the pro-choice movement and society as a whole has indoctrinated them to the point where they do not meet the legal standard of knowing that what they are doing is a crime. They don't know that this is a child that they are killing. And here is the inconsistency with that idea. So in the early part of the 2000s, President Bush signed in to federal law the ability to charge or to consider preborn children as victims of violent crimes. This allowed states to enact fetal homicide laws, which Texas did. This is why the whole entire Texas homicide code was changed to the way that it is right now, so that if somebody kills a preborn child, they can be charged with criminal homicide. We saw a case just a couple of months ago where a man was not only charged and convicted, but punished to life without parole for killing his own preborn child. He beat up his wife, choked her out, the baby died, and he was rightly convicted of criminal homicide. This law has been on the books for 20 years. For 20 years, we have said that if you kill a preborn child, you can be charged and convicted of criminal homicide. So whether you're a man and you kill a preborn child, or you're a woman and you kill somebody else's preborn child, or if you are a pregnant woman and you kill somebody else's preborn child, you can be charged with criminal homicide, according to Texas law, and it's been that way for 20 years. It is only if you are the mother of that preborn child that you are immune from prosecution, that it is not considered criminal homicide. So if the mother has been inundated by all of this information and indoctrinated to the point where she does not meet the mens rea for this crime, how can you say that everybody else in society has? Here's an example I like to give. Let's say I get my wife pregnant, and she's 12 weeks pregnant. And I have a mistress, and I get her pregnant, and she's 12 weeks pregnant. And my wife goes online, gets some of these black market pills, crushes them up. She takes some and she gives some to my mistress, and both babies died. She could be charged for the criminal homicide of killing the mistress's preborn child, because she meets the mens rea. She has the proper knowledge and intent to kill that baby, but she does not have the mens rea. She does not meet the requirements to have the right knowledge and intention to kill her own preborn child. It makes zero sense. How does she have the knowledge and intent to kill somebody else's baby, but not her own? It is inconsistent at its root. And we need to start seeing the inconsistency for what it is. So I've talked about how coercion, how they redefine coercion and twist its definition, how they twist the knowledge and intention in order to create victim status for women that kill their own preborn children to the exclusion of all others. You see, it's the pro-life establishment, the industry, these organizations and legislators that have targeted women that kill their own preborn children to be the only demographic that is immune from all types of prosecution. And what we are going to start seeing very soon with the mass numbers of self-managed abortion is the state being completely unable to stem the tide of the murder of these children, because they will not pick up the sword of justice because they have abdicated their duty. And they lie to themselves and to the population as they target these women to be immune from prosecution. Now that it is so widely accepted, promoted, and happening right now for women to kill their children from the comfort and safety of their own home, the state is going to be impotent to do anything about it, and they do not want to do anything about it. From the governor on down, as he meets with pro-life organization heads at the beginning of legislative sessions, and they tell him which laws they want to pass and which laws that they want him to block, and he hands that down to committee chairs and to Republican leadership. They are all in cahoots in killing bills of criminalization. Every single one of them has the blood of these children on their hands because they hate justice. Now, Texas Right to Life got really upset with me a little while back because I made the claim that Stephanie Click hates justice. She does. Her actions have shown that she despises God's justice, that she is neglectful in her duty to bear the sword, and she does so with partiality and vanity, and woe unto her and others like her. Their hatred for justice in order to build their own reputation, make themselves palatable, is coals that they are heaping on their head, and they need to be exposed. Joe Carter giving cover for this evil, playing along with lies about coercion, lies about evidence that can be promoted, lies about what women know. He is part of the problem, disseminating lies to Christians and calling for them to fight against justice. And all of that is going to do is promote massive amounts of death in the comfort of people's homes. Shame on them. And they need to repent. They are making it easier and acceptable for women to unjustly kill their own preborn children from the comfort and safety of their home by pushing some buttons on the internet. And then until we are willing to stand up for justice, it's going to get worse. Right now, there's a runoff between Stephanie Click and David Lowe for her House chair, or for her seat. And this is one of the central arguments that Stephanie Click is making against David Lowe. That he hates women, he wants to kill women, he wants all of these horrible things. She's trying to run from the fact that she hates justice. David, what's that guy's name? Jeffrey Leach. He's also anti-justice. Not only for abortion, but right now he is lobbying against just application for criminal homicide right now. So there is an execution that's about to happen in Texas on a woman. The 7th one in 150 years. The 7th execution of a woman in Texas. It's scheduled for the next couple of weeks. And he is lobbying against the application of justice. He's part of the establishment problem that is behind the scenes, from the governor to the leadership within the Republican Party. Pro-life legislators in cahoots with pro-life organizations fighting against justice. They're going to claim it's so that they can save the lives of children. But they don't tell you that it's only to stop the killing of children in healthcare facilities through the healthcare laws that they wrote and signed. This is an abomination before God, and they will be held accountable before Him. I just wanted to talk about this real quick so that we have an understanding of where we are going because of self-managed abortion that has been thrown upon us primarily because of the actions of pro-life organizations and pro-life legislators. They are to blame for the massive increase of killing children in the privacy and comfort and safety of their own homes. And until we are willing to say that these women should no longer be targeted as victims, but treated like the criminals that they are, this is going to continue, and it's going to get worse. I hope you found this to be helpful. Leave me some comments. And until next time, join the resistance. Wield the sword of truth. Our Lord has left us here to navigate through this world as priests in the kingdom of God. Apply the mind of Christ and battle against the culture that hates God and loves death.